Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss Scream 3, starring David Arquette, Nev Campbell, Courtney Cox, Matt Kessler, Parker Posey, Jenny McCarthy, Patrick Warburton, Dion Richmond, Emily Mortimer, and Patrick Dempsey, directed by Wes Craven. Now, this is my first viewing of this movie, and let's see how I feel about it. Let's get into it. In Hollywood, California, Cotton Weary, returned by Liev Schreiber, gets a call from a mysterious female voice that turns out to be the Ghostface killer stalking Cotton and threatens to kill Christine as he rushes home, while Ghostface wants to know where Sidney Prescott, returned by Nev Campbell, is living at, and Ghostface attacks his girlfriend. And as he gets home, he finds her scared to death and stabbed by Ghostface, and Cotton has killed himself, which is painful to see Liev Schreiber getting killed after being the hero at the end of the last movie. Sydney lives in Hollywood as she walks her golden retriever dog otherwise known as, and works at home being under a different identity named Laura, as she is hearing people's problems, which feels like a failed career after fighting Ghostface twice. Gail Weathers, returned by Courtney Cox, comes out with their new book, as she's promoting it while she's on anchor on the news and gets a visit by a cop named Mark Kincaid, played by Patrick Dempsey, talking with Gail about Cotton's death. And these are terrible characters, as he shows a picture of Sydney's mother, Maureen, after Cotton's death, and is this making any sense? Honestly, fuck no. Hollywood is in production on the Stab 3, and I thought, are you fucking serious right now? Because I thought from the footage of the first one looked really bad. As they're making a part 3 now, and we'll see how many make next time. And maybe this new one, we'll see. But I feel like they're overdoing it, just like the series thus far, as there's a part 5 coming. We get a cameo from Roger Corman as we're introduced to more victims filming not only Stab 3 but this movie as well. For example, Tyson Fox, played by Dion Richmond, Tom Prince, played by Matt Kessler, Sarah Darling, played by Jenny McCarthy. And what kind of name is Darling? I mean, Jesus Christ. This movie doesn't make much sense. Angelina Tyler, played by Emily Mortimer, and Jennifer Jolie, played by Parker Posey, who plays Gail in the Stab movies. While there's a bunch of security guards along with Dewey, returned by David Arquette, as everyone comes off like assholes to each other, while Jay and Silent Bob thinks Gail is someone named Carrie, which was a total fucking ripoff, totally. Sydney dreams of her mother being alive as she also dreams of Ghostface while scaring poor Doggy. I'm going to feel bad for Doggy if he gets killed later on. Sarah comes to the set the next day and gets scared by a death in the movie Tyson, as she calls the director Roman Bridger to run over her lines, as Sarah comes off like a bitch. And I'm not the biggest Jenny McCarthy fan because she comes off that way in real life, as this is proving my point. The security guard turns off the lights while Sarah is getting attacked and killed by Ghostface, which has to be the stupidest scene in this whole movie. Dewey and Gail have a lunch together while having an argument about the past, and do you need to bring up the drama from the past at this point? Hell motherfucking no. Dewey gets to Jennifer's place as she tells Gail she dies in the third movie with Stephen Stone, played by Patrick Warburton, and I swear to God, she's acting like a typical Parker Posey character she plays in general. Meanwhile, Gail is super jealous about it, and Stephen, I get the impression, might be the Ghostface killer, as Detective Kincaid is trying to solve the crime scene with Gail, and Roman is interrogated by two of the detectives about a meeting she had with him before her death, and bring him to the station. While the movie is going nowhere for me, Sydney, disguised as Laura, gets a phone call from a woman who killed someone who sounds like her mother, but it turns out it's Ghostface, and I'm not scared nor am I laughing at this movie because it's getting preposterous to this point in the film, as this is not a Scream film where it's set to the original where it's set at the original location like the first two movies, and it doesn't have the genius dialogue of the first two, as Gale tells Dewey the cops let Roman go, and they see two photos that looks the same as Dewey calls Steven and Ghostface kills him. And my suspicion is over, and this is not getting any more obvious and stupid. Tom is perhaps the stupidest character in this whole movie as he reads new drafts of the script and get blown up, and I thought, who fucking cares at this point? Because I'm hating on every single character in this movie. Dewey shoots at Ghostface as he goes underneath the car, while the Ghostface was shot, but he manages to get away, and Jennifer punches Dewey, and Gale punches Jennifer, which was hilarious in a dumb way, and the cops want to talk to Sydney, as Dewey calls her 5 times as she's at the precinct to talk about Detective Kincaid about the killer calling her. And the problem I'm having is these characters' reunion didn't convince me. They were happy to see each other, while Randy's sister Martha is working in Hollywood to show a video of Randy returned by Jamie Kennedy. And can I call out, I'm thinking Martha is the killer because of her brother getting killed last time. Can this movie get any more fucking obvious? Gail gets an idea to go off on her own, and Jennifer joins along with her. And honestly, Jennifer annoyed the living hell out of me while they bump into Carrie Fisher, and she shows photos of other photos, and that cameo was surprisingly not as bad as I was thinking it was going to be. Sydney sees the killer is in the bathroom as she opens to be Angelina as she took some souvenirs, and that makes me think she's really up to something not good as she runs to the set to find a house that was taking place in the first film. While all of this is looking familiar, it's getting on my nerves like this movie is. The killer is getting Sydney, but she eventually escapes to find another one as she gets worried while Sydney's mother is calling on Sydney, and she gets out, and Dewey and the other cops come in, but the killer escapes as Sydney goes back to the station, while Gale discovers Sydney's mother was an actress and visits the president of the studios in Hollywood as he tells her the truth about Maureen as she was kind of a different identity, while Detective Kincaid talks about the movie trilogy as all bets are off, and I don't care how much bets are off, while Sydney goes to the president of the studios party in a mansion, while Roman is there as obviously these actors don't know the rules, as one says, "I'll be right back," and it makes me think he's dead. Dewey learns the production of Stab 3 is back in business. Gale learns Roman is dead and the killer is here, and Angelina runs out and gets stabbed by Ghostface, while Gale and Jennifer sees Ghostface stabbing Angelina as Dewey gets cut. And what is it with Dewey getting in the chest? As it was like that last time, and it's happening here. As Dewey sees the mirror moving and Jennifer gets dead, and Ghostface grabs Gale, and she fights him and leads him in a basement, and there's a hell of a lot of screaming while Dewey doesn't get killed, but hit by the knife, which is also fucking stupid. And I think I'm checked out of this movie at this point. Ghostface calls Sydney to get some alone time and to not bring cops with her as he threatens Dewey and Gale. And I just wanted this movie to be over and done with. Jesus. Sydney goes to the house where Gale and Dewey are captured, and she comes inside and Ghostface slaps her to the ground, and she gets back up as Kincaid shows up to the party and fights off Ghostface and knocks him out, while Sydney gets him to follow her and hides behind a wall of books, which is rather clever until she sees herself her mother was an actress, and while Ghostface wears a bulletproof vest and discovers Roman was the killer and Sydney's brother, which is awfully convenient, as he wasn't in half the movie except for a scene. And there while he kills the president of the studios, making it look like it was Sydney when it was Roman. And I'm going blah blah fucking blah. This movie is dull enough as it is. Dewey turns off the lights and Roman hides Kincaid coming in and gets knocked out once again, and Sydney gets shot twice whilst Roman tries to hide from Dewey and Gale, and Sydney does eventually get back up and wearing a bulletproof vest and killing Roman off by stabbing him in the stomach. And as he dies, she holds his hand and he gets back up and trying to attack. And Dewey shoots him and gets the head. And Sydney, Dewey, and Gale make it out alive as Dewey proposes to Gale to marry him. And Sydney gets back from her walk as she gets over to watch a movie. And the climax sucks ass as it's very dull. Now it's time for the rating. I'll give this movie a 1.8 out of 10. I don't like nor do I care for the characters, as this isn't the genius idea Wes Craven came up with for the last couple of films. This movie was boring, bad, and completely dull, as this is not the same movie as the first two, as it may be so far the weakest of the movies. We'll find out after the new film. The bottom line is all the choices being made in this movie is absolutely fucking horrible, as the movie was completely dreadful, that I'm not looking forward to what's coming next. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining me, and next time I will be back with Scream 4. And until then, what's your favorite scary movie?